Hey everybody, me too back, or Alan, and this is going to be a response video to a recent video that Blue Tonic put up, and he was discussing haircutting etiquette and whether or not, no wait, that's not right, it was carpet burns, no that's not right either. Oh, he was talking about reproductions, that's it. Ugh, it's always easy to get confused in those things. Anyway, he was talking about the hot topic almost at the moment, and that is, you know, making old games, fake versions of them and whatnot. One of the things that he brought up was that the terminology used, I suppose. I think he'd been watching my video where I had made what I called a reproduction of Frogger on the Sega Master System. Now, he had said, but is reproduction not making or remaking something that already existed? So, like taking an existing box art and printing it out and you're reproducing it. Technically, yes, that's true. So to call this a reproduction isn't strictly accurate. This Frogger artwork did not exist. The Frogger label, the catalogs and whatnot that I make, they don't exist. These are new things. Technically, what this is a new production where I repurpose old components. Like, to make the Frogger cartridge, I need a donor cartridge and I replace the existing game with the new game. So really it's repurposing to produce a new production. But in the same way that people Google, things instead of searching for them on the internet, it seems that reproduction has become some sort of general terminology for, making kind of old games for old systems. And be they the same game that already exists or something new that was never released or whatever. So, that out of the way, we can probably move on to the kind of the meaty part of the debate, and that's the kind of pros and cons of it. Is it right? What's the negative potential implications on the collector scene, and why would you do it? Like, all these questions seem to be kind of boiling up at the moment. And I mean, they're valid questions, and I understand people's concerns. It makes a lot of sense. To start with, I suppose, want to reiterate that this, I feel, personally falls into a very different category. This is not something you could buy. You can't go out and buy Frogger on the Sega Master System. It doesn't exist. And all my reproductions fall into that category. They're either Game Gear ports or unreleased games or translated games that never got English releases, things like that. They're games you couldn't ordinarily play on a Sega Master System. You couldn't just go out and buy them. So, with that said, there is the kind of other side, and I think this is kind of what a lot of people are getting at, and this is the making or reproducing an existing rare game or box. Now, I know Blue Tonic talked about, I think it was like a Castlevania game or something like that on the SNES. I'm not that familiar with it, so I'll choose one that I am more familiar with, and that's Earthbound. Earthbound, a loose cartridge, can go for like something like $100. Box copy, a good bit more. Now, if you were to make your own fake copy of Earthbound, say take a common game, repurpose the circuit board, place the new game on, create a label, then try and sell that for $100+ or whatever that Earthbound goes for, well, you are a scumbag, plain and simple. And you know what? You deserve bad things to happen to you, because that's just deception. Now, if you were honest about it, I think that opens a very different area. If you were to say, take a rare game that, and in this case I'm going to have something closer to my own collection, that's the Smurfs 2 on the Sega Master System, you could buy that game. It was produced. It had a very limited run. It makes it very hard to buy. At the moment, there's one sitting up on eBay and it's like nearly £500 sterling. That is not something, in my opinion, that most people would be willing to spend on one single retro game. And even if they were willing to spend it, it's simply not within the budget of most people. I know there are collectors out there that will do that, and it's great to see their collections too. I know in Ninja Bear Hug's recent video, he talked about buying like things like Team Ek and Primal Rage on the 32X. It cost 1,400 sterling for those two games, and they have like doubled in value. They're worth a lot more now. And actually, Escorts, I think he's spent a few hundred at least on some of his games. Again, very rare games. But for the majority of people, it is not an option as much as they might want that game to buy the real game. They could get lucky. You could find a poorly listed item on eBay, or maybe a seller didn't realise what they have and put up a buy it now. That happened with the Smurfs. Or you might find something locally. Again, it can happen. But those things are very rare occurrences. So, kind of playing devil's advocate here really, I can understand why a person might want a reproduced existing game. And you could say, well, why would you want to spend however much a person might be charging for an honest reproduction? By that I mean they're saying, look, this is a reproduction. They're not trying to fob people off. Why would they do that? If they just want to play the game, there's emulation. Or there's flashcards. And what I would say is emulation. Emulation is absolutely great and essential to the survival of gaming, and particularly retro gaming as a kind of a piece of historical information. When it comes down to it, all these games around me are going to stop working. ROM chips will lose their data through bit erosion. Discs will either become scratched to hell or just also lose their data. And the consoles, I'm looking over at consoles now, you can't see them, and the consoles are going to break down and wear down over time. Obviously, more primitive consoles with less moving parts will last longer, but they're going to die. Emulation, awesome. Having said that, as a collector and as a person who loves the physical tangibility of gaming, I do not want to emulate a game if I can have the real thing. And the gaming industry should love me for that, because I want to bloody buy the game. People always say emulation, yeah, but no, emulation often leads me to want to buy the game. It's not a solution in its own right. I want the real thing. So, how about flash drives and flash cards? Like the EverDrive and the Mega Drive and the Master System. They're great products, no doubt about it. Basically, slap a ton of ROMs onto a single card and buff, you're playing them on your real hardware with your real controller and your real TV output. That's great too. And I can see that that's a lot closer. That's definitely very close. But it's still not quite right. Because for me, it's not just about having a massive list of games. I might have a massive physical list, but if I put in one cartridge, I'm much more likely to play that one cartridge. If I have a flash drive with a boatload of games, I'm going to skip between them and I'm not going to really invest into any one game. It even happens when you have a lot of games around you. And I know Ninja Bear Hug has said something similar. He has a games room that has nothing but storage, whereas he plays his games in another room. Because if he was to sit there with 1,000 or however many games around him, he would not play anything. If he gets stuck, off it goes, the next one. So that's one of the fallbacks. But another thing is, as I said, I like tangibility. So for me, holding a cartridge, being able to look at the artwork and be able to read the box text and look at the game images, and it kind of gives me an insight into the product, into it. It's another form of connection. It's part of the process. It's the same way where people would say that LPs used to have this fabulous artwork, but now they don't, and they kind of lose something. That's why I want these in my collection. It is a game on the system. It's a game I couldn't ordinarily play, and I want it to sit on the shelf with my other games and look good, and for me to skim by and say, oh yeah, now what's that all about, and look at it. I know I wrote it, but same process. Now, if I was a collector that didn't have the ability to make reproductions, but I could buy a Smurfs 2 reproduction for a reasonable price, I would be very tempted. because I do not personally consider it a worthwhile investment to buy a Smurfs 2, unless I got lucky on the price. People would say, oh, but they go up in value. That's all well and good if you plan to sell it. I have no intention of selling it, ever. I've sold 3 games in my entire life and I regretted them. So I want to play it and I want something tangible. If someone can make me a good version, I would definitely entertain that. Now, the downside to all this, you have people that are being unscrupulous, charging above the odds. You have people who are not being honest that these are reproductions, that these are fakes. And then you have this kind of glut in the market of, well, is that real or is that not real? Yes, that is true. And just to kind of step aside to my own scenario again, on the back of all my boxes, I put, credits. I don't know, is that coming across in camera? Basically, my name's there. I also make a point of removing a barcode. This time I had the Konami logo, sometimes there's nothing there. Now, I know another YouTuber was asking me just for a little bit of advice about, maybe doing some reproductions of his own. Just the boxes, I think. And the topic of kind of credits came up, and he had actually thought of putting them in himself, just as a personal touch, because it would be his item. But also I said to him, it's good to put it in anyway, just to make it clear. I know who, he would never ever consider doing anything, like selling it on or whatever. But it's more a case of, if through some freak event it was to end up, there would be no confusion. Now you could say, well, the front's not clear, but again, if you get a reproduction and it wasn't listed as being a fake item on eBay, you can always send it back. If you get this as it was being sold as being real, and you say, hey, who the hell is Mewtwo? 2012, they weren't making games. Where's the back? It's clear. And even with people who do try and fake it with existing, say the Smurfs do just print it out and sell it. So it would have a barcode, it would have an existing product code number that would match and all those types of things. There are ways to tell. I've never seen a reproduction that is exactly the same. The paper quality just isn't the same, the inks aren't the same, the labels aren't the same. If you unscrew the back of the cartridges, you'll very clearly tell that there's a different ROM chip in there, clear as day. It's even like boxes, say doing SNES reproduction boxes, the cardboard used is way different. Unless you have more of a proper factory facility, printing it at home, you won't get the same quality. And you might not tell straight off the bat, from a distance. Like if I was to hold this up, and I hold up another Masters in game, on camera you might not tell that they're fake. But in person, at least to me, it's a good facsimile, but it is fake. And no means about it. And same with manuals. Now, that does make eBay a bit more of a pain in the ass than it has to be. And eBay's already a pain in the ass at times. I can understand that. But when it boils down to it, there is no point getting your knickers in a twist over reproductions. The genie is out of the bottle. People know how to do it. People are going to do it. So cutting off the potential good to try and stop the bad, that isn't going to happen. Because the unscrupulous characters that are out there, they're always going, the information's there, they're going to try and make that quick buck. You can't turn back time on that. Do I wish that wasn't the case? Of course so. But that's just in general in life, wishing for, bad people to go away. Now, it's a terrible shame, because I've seen people, I've seen like someone like Ashley Escort, and I think he kind of changed his mind on it, but he had said something like he was going to stop going for his full Mega Drive set and 32X set. Now, I can understand, like, Jesus, something like Team Ek and those sort of things that are selling in the thousands, you really want to get the real thing there. And you really want to be sure. And if you're ever unsure, then you definitely need to get yourself the ability through, game-based screwdrivers to open the bad boys up and check what's inside. If I was spending £1,000 on a game, I for sure would. But it's sad to see people like that consider stopping collecting over Reproductions, that they would be pushing in on the market that much. I do hope that eBay doesn't get flooded, and I think we are at a stage now, if this is happening more with fake boxes and fake games, if it's a rarer item, you're just going to have to ask and be very careful and use PayPal. You know, protect yourself. It'll be a bit of a pain, but there's many things like that in life, isn't there? So, maybe I hope I didn't sound too angry or aggressive, because to be fair, I actually agreed with what Plutonic was saying pretty much wholeheartedly. I think he thought I was I might have been upset or something, because he posted to me, you know, something like, "Oh, I don't know if you'll enjoy watching the video." I thought it was a great video, mate. You know, his videos are always good to watch. He did a 5-minute section at the beginning about haircuts, totally unrelated to gaming and yet riveting viewing anyway. So yeah, there you go. And Reproductions, there are good sides. I guess I'm putting forward potential good sides. They give people opportunities they wouldn't ordinarily have. People can make products that wouldn't already, you know, or be available. But like everything in life, you're going to have those people who are going to try and ruin it. We shouldn't let them win. That's my final, you know, comment on the matter. So, thanks as always for watching. Hope you enjoyed. You know, click to subscribe and all that, you know, good stuff. Comments if you got comments. Does seem to be kind of a popular topic at the moment. And I'll be back again with another video shortly. Bye for now.